Today's guest is Ahmed Alassafi, founding go-to-market lead for the SMB segment at Relevance AI, the Sydney startup at the forefront of the AI workforce revolution. Relevance AI offers a low-code platform that helps you build and deploy AI agent teams. These agents can think, act, and autonomously complete complex workflows like sales outreach, customer support, research, and a bunch more. Ahmed Alassafi is here to tell us all about it. So Ahmed, welcome to ROI from AI.
Thank you so much, Brad. Very, very much a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure as well. I want to start with your career journey and how you got to this position that you find yourself in now at Relevance AI.
Yes, it's a funny one actually. I grew up in Auckland. I don't know if I've lost that accent now. Auckland in New Zealand,
Mm.
but yeah, I actually attended law school in New Zealand, University of Auckland. So studied there for around 5, 6 years, 5 or 6-ish years, and graduated with a law degree, which I have promptly, did not use at all. So that's been
Yeah.
great. But around about 2, 3 years in, I realized that I had, a real big interest in tech and innovation. I think specifically, I was writing a lot of essays at the time for legal papers of some sort. I think it was around about the time I was doing some sort of commercial law paper. I realized that I'm basically just reading a lot of text and putting all this text together into a summary that is not really my opinion, but they called them legal opinions. And I realized, wait, tech is probably going to do something about this someday. Bear in mind, this is way before ChatGPT times, so I'm not by any means saying that I predicted ChatGPT. I did not, but I thought, okay, this is kind of a bit archaic, and I want to explore tech, and I'm not really good at reading and writing like thousands of words at a time. So
Mm.
I decided to involve myself in a lot of organizations, a lot of tech involved organizations, social innovation, etc. Basically just experimented and essentially decided, yeah, okay, after my law degree, which I'll still finish, I want to go into tech. And what's a great place to do that? Sydney, Australia. So how am I going to do that? I started leveraging, I guess, the only skills I had at the time that were tech related. So that was actually design. Moved over to Sydney, took a small job at like a really amazing design agency called Until Now, and that was kind of my window into tech. So I moved over to Sydney, took that job, started to do a lot of design work on the side, and working with a lot of no code, low code platforms, which would prove to be very very useful down the line as they are right now today at Relevance. But
Mm.
yeah, tried that out and then realized, okay, I prefer a lot of client facing work, and I want to basically build more and more for a lot of customers and have a big impact. So I started taking on some side projects, realized I did not know how to sell. So I thought, what's the best way to do that? I'll get paid to learn how to sell. So I moved over to a company called Deal as a sales rep just to learn the skill. And it was at that time that I started playing around with AI. So I really started leveraging AI, around about 6 to 9 months into the job, because I realized there were a lot of really mundane tasks that I was doing. For example, account research.
Mm.
Spend a couple hours a day doing that. Basically clicking your mouse and searching on Google the same thing for each company. Really repetitive. Anyone could do that kind of job. I thought, why am I spending a couple hours a day doing this? So I found a way with all my sort of no code experience and just being inquisitive as to what tools are out there to solve that problem. One of the platforms I used was Relevance AI. And so, yeah, that was really an eye opener for me in terms of what I could achieve and how I could just cut a couple hours out of my day. So that really intrigued me. I started going to a lot of Relevance AI events and a lot of other AI related events, realized that this was a really cool space and I wanted to work in it. But the opportunity just hadn't presented itself yet until one day it did, at around about the mark of the new year. Relevance was hiring for an account executive. I was by no means qualified to be an account executive. I was still a sales rep, but I did know how to use AI tools, and it was kind of exactly what they were looking for. So I brought together those skills, and a good friend of mine was also working there and referred me in. And here we are. That's kind of my journey as to how I ended up at Relevance. And so I sort of took those learnings, built some agents for the interview process, really understood, I guess, the problem landscape of what Relevance was trying to solve for. I was a big fan, and it all made sense after many years of not really knowing what I was doing. But
Yeah.
that's what's brought me here.
Oh, it's amazing. It's clearly a story that has a lot of ambition and drive, and the opportunity sounds like it came about because of your passion for it. And you're a big proponent of Relevance AI. Obviously, you work there. So, for people outside of the industry or outside of that particular space, how would you describe the platform? It's obviously building an AI workforce, but what does that entail?
Yeah, so how I would say relevance is most powerfully positioned in a market like this, where 2025, massive year of AI agents. It's one of the most searched terms on Google at the start of the year, at least. Um, I would say that there's a lot of confusion, a lot of tools, a lot going on in the space. What
Mm,
relevance is really trying to achieve is helping domain experts. So people like me in that position where I knew what my process was that I wanted to automate, but I'm not necessarily very technical. I don't know how to code. It's helping people like that, and you take that across other sales roles or marketing or customer support, design, etc. Letting those people have the ability to build and deploy AI agents on a platform that actually speaks their language, right? Like I can just write natural language prompts in, an AI agent on the platform helps me to build other AI agents, really makes things a lot more achievable instead of having to look at code or nodes or whatever.
mm.
Having that kind of interface for people like me at the time and a lot of people out there who know how to do their jobs well, but just want to automate something, that is what the platform aims to do. So really bridging the gap for domain experts to build and deploy AI agents and eventually AI workforces that can ultimately benefit them and their team.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get to see the impacts of your work firsthand, especially with things like sales outreach or customer support, research. Which of these features are you seeing the most benefit from for your clients?
I would say it's probably the most boring answer, but sales is a very big one, just
Yeah.
because you can really easily tie the business impact to the agent, right? In terms of metrics like we've saved X amount of money, for example, or time. I mean, time first is probably the biggest one, which then equates to money or greater output, right? For example, the SDR role, you've got, say, in an organization or in like a small sales team, you might have 10 SDRs. You automate that one task that takes a couple hours. You can then multiply that by 10 in each day, and then multiply that by the days in the week, days in a month, days in a year. And then you can actually kind of equate that to what you'll be paying the rep to do in that time. And so they've saved that time. They can now focus on sort of more revenue generating activities like making calls or getting on, doing higher quality sort of learning and training, and benefits their careers too, because they can go on to say close instead of just research for a couple hours a day. So sales for that reason is really easy to tie to value because you got a lot of the same role just multiplied. And you want to reach out to more companies, you need more headcount. And we're really trying to help
Mm.
companies to scale without needing extra headcount as well. So sales is a big one for that. And then marketing and customer support obviously have a lot of repeat roles as well, or a lot of like research and things that can get quite mundane and repetitive. So those can often really benefit too. One thing that we're starting to see as well is a lot of data, like finance and legal, are starting to find value in it too. But there's a little bit more regulation in those industries, so it's a bit more. There's a bit more friction for them to use something like this. But sales and marketing, it's a breeze.
Yeah. Do you have any specific examples of a client that has seen some success? Any sort of metrics that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the metrics off the top of my head, but one of the biggest benefactors of our platform is SafetyCulture, which is a very decent company here in Australia. Actually, they're just down the road from us in Surrey Hills, and they were one of our first customers to take on the BDR agent, which is like an SDR, like a sales rep type agent that basically sends out customized like cold outreach and things like that too. So they were able to basically supplement their entire process of sales process. And so if I'm actually just pulling up the customer story here, they had a 3x increase in meetings booked and a 50% reduction in the cost per meeting, simply because they were able to get a lot more quality meetings and also put a lot of the process on autopilot. And because the meetings were a lot more quality too, they had like a doubling of like a 2x increase in the number of qualified opportunities they had too. So if you don't know about SafetyCulture, they're basically a workplace operations platform with customers in 180 plus countries. So you got to be really vigilant with your time. Vigilant with your time and the types of meetings you're having because there's a lot to be had.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the proof is in the pudding, especially with those sorts of metrics and breaking it down into data. And I'm sure the clients that you work with would like to see those sorts of numbers, and it's all about dollars and cents. But I could also imagine on the flip side, there's some hesitance around AI adoption, and maybe some of the clients you're working with have some reticence to fully integrating with AI. What are some of the struggles you're seeing from people that you're working with in terms of fully jumping into AI and integrating that with their business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just speaking to a cohort actually of people who are in our AI operators boot camp. It's basically a boot camp that we set up to help people become sort of those champions or AI operators. And there's a lot of people, from big companies like EY, Air Wallets, and also smaller companies. So there are different issues that pop up for, say, small businesses, and there are different issues that pop up for enterprises. If we tackle the small business first, it's actually kind of they're each kind of the opposite issue, right? SMBs are often the most willing and the most agile to take on solutions like AI agents, because obviously the buying cycles are a lot shorter. They've got a lot more freedom to implement things. Each employee basically has a lot more say in the process. So if one of, let's say, 20 or even 200 employees figures out something that's a game changer, it's a lot easier for the company to just move towards implementing something. The downside of being in an SMB is, let's say you've got a sales process and you want to put that on autopilot with AI agents. The sales process for smaller companies is often a lot less mature. And you can say this about any sort of process, right? Like marketing or customer support. Just because they're growing, nothing wrong with what they're doing. They just haven't done it enough and put in enough reps to then have like a solid data set and standards of procedure where they can give that to an agent and the agents perform really well. It's mostly about what you give these agents in terms of context that makes them really good, right? So they're the fastest to move, but often we find that it's a bit harder for them to initially make the jump in terms of putting in proper quality processes because they're still figuring it out. So you take that kind of small business dilemma and you flip it over in enterprise, right? An enterprise like I worked at an enterprise as an SDR. I'd made that process happen. I knew exactly what sort of data I was looking for. We had a very well honed sales process. Everything's really well documented. Every new SDR is onboarded. You tell them you do your research this way. It will result in a good outcome. You use these scripts, you will get meetings, etc. It's just about putting the reps in, and obviously there's some quality control. So it's so much easier to cook up a process with AI agents that will help with that. That being said, I was the only person using it, and it was a little bit harder for me to implement that organization wide because I was one of, I think, 7,000 employees, and the I guess the ladder you have to climb up leadership to make changes, and everyone's got their own sort of softwares they're using and biases towards what vendors they want to use, etc. It's a lot harder to make moves really quickly in that space. So they have the processes, the context, and the data down pat, and so it's ripe for automation. But actually making changes happen, the buying cycles were a lot slower and decisions made are a lot slower. And for good reason, because there's also a lot of safety and precautions and security that comes with being a much larger company, a lot of data you're dealing with. But those are the main sorts of problems that we see. If I was to distill it down to like the biggest two.
Even with those problems, though, it sounds like the adoption's been pretty huge. 40,000 agents, these AI work agents, since January of this year. And you've just closed 24 million Series B funding, I believe. So lots of fast traction, lots of investor confidence. If you had to distill that into a couple of key reasons, why do you think this trajectory has been so successful for Relevance?
I think the biggest factor is the usability of the platform, being that someone can get to some sort of value, even if it's just one minuscule task like I did, pretty quickly on the platform. And so it basically spreads our surface area for opportunity, or if you call it luck or whatever you call it, to a lot more people. And so like the rate of adoption is a lot quicker and a lot more people get their eyes on something that actually works because again, we're not talking about coding or using nodes. You don't have to talk to engineers and go back and forth for days to build something out. Anyone can build anything. And so let's say me in that situation where I was an SDR, multiply that by all the other SDRs that might be trying this. Or you might have a particularly sort of tech savvy CIO or CRO or someone who is in a decision making capacity who does try it out and they can make their decision. They don't have to go to their tech team and pull a lot of different moves and shift priorities and create a roadmap around making something. They can see value pretty quickly, and so we find that accelerates a lot of the things. And so building that has really helped us to making that more accessible has really helped us to get a lot more people on board to see the value. And once that happens, it's just a bit of a ripple effect, right? So I'd say it all comes down to just how usable this is to most personas.
Yeah, well, that sort of trajectory, the numbers, they're not lying. That's it's a lot of success in a short amount of time. So I'm sure you're stoked with that. I would love to look towards the future and what you're projecting, and maybe what a roadmap looks like for Relevance AI. If you can reveal, where do you see the next 5 to 10 years with this sort of technology?
Yeah, so we're getting to the stage where there are a lot of things that we're building out that are a lot higher leverage, right? So I'll probably outline just a couple of things. The larger ethos of the company is to make this a lot more AI native, right? Like we're not trying to create just another SaaS. And we know that SaaS is kind of heading in a different direction now, where people are very quickly able to spin up concepts or actual working software, albeit at right now, like a smaller scale. It's a lot easier to just test, iterate, and create things, right? And so with that, we want people to have the same experience that they're having on other platforms like Lovable or like vibe coding platforms, right? Because that's what it really is. And what that doesn't look like is a UI with more complex sort of buttons and sort of drag and drop this or adjust these different sliders and having to really like use your keyboard and mouse a lot. More so like, okay, how do I capture the information that's in my head? Right, let's say I were to just speak to like a voice note or say relevance for 10 minutes around my processes. How can I have that conversation, uh, you know, create an actual AI agent or workforce, right? So much more AI native, much more intuitive, really meeting the user where they want to be met rather than making them use a platform. So what that looks like is, yeah, I have a process that I know works as like, say, a sales manager. I can speak for 10 minutes, just outline everything. Maybe the AI agent actually asks me questions back. I have a co-pilot that helps me to build things out. And so that's really sort of 10x it because you're not having to interface with something anymore. More so something that understands you, asks questions where needed, and create quality AI agents that work really well. So that's where the market is going. That's where we want to go as well. And then yeah, that really just makes it even easier to build. The second thing is going from AI agents to workforces. So it's really thinking about scale, right? Like not just building for certain verticals, not just building one or two agents, but really building a team of agents that can help you access all your software or something. For example, we just put out a post and a release on something called Model Relevance Protocol. Essentially what that is it basically gives you a workforce that connects to all your tools. Think about like if you were to have an expert with say HubSpot or Slack or Gmail or Notion. You talk to the one workforce, you ask it to, hey, I want you to send this message in Slack, send this email, and check HubSpot for a certain thing. It'll do it all in the one flow. It'll know exactly which agents to call, and it really like it knows how to configure the API calls. You don't have to do any of that stuff. So just deeper, I guess, penetration into your software stack without having to worry about knowing what calls to set up and all the specific details. The last thing that we're also doing is, again, another leverage play, which is we're opening up a marketplace. Right now, we've got a lot of templates that people can clone. We've also got we've got an AI agent that can help you to build AI agents, like that Copilot I mentioned. But one thing we noticed is a lot of users are building things that we're surprised about, that are really, really good. And we simply don't have the time to build every agent that people might want. But a lot of users are building cool things. So we've recently launched a marketplace. It's in beta, but it's going to come out to everyone very soon. Where our smartest builders who don't work at Relevance or aren't affiliated but love Relevance can actually publish the agents they've built and share that with people. Much like with website builders, you have a lot of templates or Notion templates, things like that, but with AI agents. So it's really just giving a lot more people a lot more control and a lot more access. Really thinking scale and leverage.
Yeah, and it taps into this idea I've been thinking about lately with AI technology is obviously evolving very fast, but it's also us that is evolving alongside AI and how we can best use it for our business or for our personal life. So I love the idea of a marketplace because it's very empowering and it's community. We are human. We want to chat to one another. We want to discuss ideas. So, yeah, I am really keen to see how this marketplace evolves for Relevance AI. But this is a business podcast, so we do have to discuss return of investment. So, I would love to know, as someone that works really closely with small to medium sized businesses, and for someone listening, what is your biggest tip for getting a return on investment using AI?
I would say it all comes down to scoping. Like I'm still having a lot of the same conversations that I did 8 to 9 months ago with companies that are just looking to explore what AI agents can do and how impressive the technology is. That is something that we all know, but the reality is that the technology has been around for a couple years, right? Not just AI agents, but I also mean just regular process automation. So the real question is not what can they do, because they can do most things now and they're getting more impressive. Most problems you have could be solved a year or two ago. The real question is, what processes do I have that are repetitive, that are high quantity, that are maybe low ROI per unit? For example, researching one company shouldn't be, say, a couple dollars of someone's wage, right? Like it's a super simple thing that could be automated 2 years ago. Um, so it's really finding, doing a process audit, right, into your company, being like, okay, what's taking up the most time, but that really anyone can do. I can outsource this to anyone without industry knowledge, and we could very easily just automate this task. So it's really looking and doing an audit of what your current processes are, and selecting, identifying the highest ROI processes to automate at the start. And so there's probably a couple of those. It usually skews towards something that takes a lot of time, but is not worth the unit of time per item that you're doing it with. And so research is an example, or like reading through invoices is an example, or researching news articles, or answering like customer queries, which tend to be 80% a lot of the similar queries. So it's like finding those things that will, just focus on the one thing basically. And then from there, try to, I guess, explore new frontiers, but really just like honing in on that one boring problem that no one wants to look at, because it's not, VO3 video generation or something exciting, but it's
Mm.
just the biggest return for businesses.
Yeah, sometimes what is the most boring is the most effective. So I love the idea of an audit. It's the word I've been looking for, because I've been telling people to do a bit of a time map or an ROI map, where you're going through your past and you're seeing what takes up the most time with the least amount of benefit. And then just Google. There's probably something that already exists. It's a really robust emerging industry. So amazing advice from you, Ahmed. I feel like I need to actually start my own business and actually get the ball rolling, have my own AI workforce. But I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. And thank you for joining us on ROI from AI.
No worries. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much. Big fan of what you are doing at SMECAI as well. And hope to have more conversations like this soon.
Thank you.